Hey guys, there's a good chance that this puzzle will hurt your brain by the time we get to the bottom of explaining it. So I don't want to say too much. It's white to play and win. If you would like to pause, go ahead and try to figure out what's white's winning idea. But let me just warn you, this puzzle has all types of crazy stuff going on that I didn't realize when I first looked at it. So just keep that in mind. It's not an easy one. All right, good luck, and we'll talk about it in just a second. Hey guys, before we get back to the video, please be careful. I am not giving away any prizes, and I am not using a Telegram account in the comments of the videos to communicate that to you. So if somebody messages you or comments on one of your comments saying, hey, this is Chess Vibes, you won, message me on a Telegram number or something, that's a scam. That's not me. Please don't respond to that person. And a couple of people have emailed me saying it's going around. So I just wanted to caution you. No prizes, no giveaways, nothing like that. And so please just ignore that and be careful. I mean, be smart, right? Stay sharp. Anyway, back to the video. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, so of course, white's pawns are going this way. Black's pawn is about to become a queen. This is kind of the major problem for white, right? Is that the rook, which normally you would like to come behind the pawn to stop it, you can't do that because the knight's blocking you, and black will just get a queen. Same thing over here. You'd like to be able to come down here, stop it like this, but the bishop is in your way. So you can see how both of these pieces are kind of stopping the rook from getting to the b1 square. So the first move of this puzzle is bishop to d2. And what you're doing is setting up the fork here so that if black were to get the queen now, you would swing your rook down, forking these guys. And then after this trade, this is actually a winning endgame for white. The bishop is very good at kind of controlling both sides of the board, and you're probably just going to push your h-pawn down the board and win. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now, one question that you might be having is, why do we move our bishop to d2 where the knight can take it? Why don't we go to f2 instead? Because now we have the same threat, but the knight can't take our bishop, right? The reason we don't go here is because black will play the move king to g2, attacking our bishop. And if we try to swing our rook down, let's say to stop the pawn, look what happens. Knight to c1 blocks off our rook from getting to stop the pawn. And we have no way to prevent black from getting the queen. So we would have to try a move like this, rook to e2, which is very tricky. And after the queen, we would go bishop to g3 check, king to f1. We would get the fork now, trade, takes, we get this position, which is actually a draw, and I'll just show you h4, a5, h5, a4, h6, a3, h7, a2, we get the queen, black gets the queen, we trade, and this is, according to Stockfish, a drawn endgame. The king's going to come up, the knight's going to be involved. It's kind of tricky, but essentially what's going to happen is the knight's going to swing over, and some trades are going to happen. We're going to be able to hunt down black's pawn. Let's see, king f6, I guess. Knight to d4. We hunt down the pawn eventually, and black's able to stop our pawns, and it's a draw. Okay, so that was a lot. But the point is, going all the way back here, that if we play bishop to f2, because black has this king to g2 idea attacking the bishop, we still have to deal with the problem of how do we stop the pawn. It ultimately leads to a draw. Okay, so the winning move, bishop to d2. And like I mentioned, the idea was we're going to have the fork if black gets the queen. But of course, you're probably saying, well, black's not going to do that. They're just going to take our bishop for free. So what do we do now? We actually have two moves that should come into your mind, and you have to decide which one is the best. So good luck. Which move should we play? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the two moves that should have came to your mind were rook to b8, stopping the pawn this way, and rook to e1, stopping it this way. And only one of them is winning, and the reason is pretty mind-boggling. So we're going to start with the wrong move first, and then we're going to come back to the correct move. Okay, so the correct move is rook to e1, but we're going to start with rook to b8. This is the wrong move, and here is why. And I want you guys to pay attention because this is going to come back later when we look at the winning line. So we're attacking the pawn. Black has to push it. Only move that makes any sense. We take it because we can't allow black to just have a queen, right? Black takes us. And now it's a question of, can our h-pawn become a queen before black's knight can stop it? Because, of course, black's king is too far. There's no way the black king is going to stop this, right? So it's a question of the knight and the pawn, okay? So we push it, and black goes knight to c3, and we push it, and black goes knight to d5. And if we push it again, I should point out, black's going to simply play check, and then they're going to blockade it with the knight here. We can't get in because of the pawns, and we actually lose. Okay, black's king is now going to have time to run around, or they're going to push this pawn. Any number of things, black wins very relatively easily. However, instead of pushing it here at the end with h6, we play king to g5, and we're trying to cut off the knight from coming in so that now we can push it. But black has a very nice move here, f6 check, forcing our king to make a decision. If we go up to g6, watch what happens. Knight to f4, we get forked, and then ultimately, if we take this, black takes this, it's going to lead to a draw, okay? So, we don't want to go there. What do? We go back to g4. But now, black plays knight to e3 check, continuing to check us. We play king to f4. We're trying to get away from the checks. And black plays knight to g2 check. Now, this move might not look like much to you. It probably just looks like a random check. But I want you to remember this move. Remember this move, knight to g2. Okay, this is going to be important later. So black plays knight to g2 check. Now, if we go back to g4, we're just going to repeat the position. He's just going to keep going back and forth. So where do we have to go? Well, we have to go to e4. But now black plays the move d5 check. And remember, what they're trying to do is get to this pawn, right? If black just plays a random move like moves their king, well, guess what? We push our pawn and we win, right? They can't stop it. So that's why d5 is important. It lures our king over here so that they can follow up with knight to f4 check and fork us. Okay, and then we lose the game if that happens. So we don't take the pawn, we go king to d4. But again, knight to h4, and look at this. If we push the pawn, there's another fork, and black's going to take us. So what do? Well, now we take the pawn. Black takes. We go here. Black goes check. We go takes. They take us. And this is a drawn endgame. And if you're curious, I'll just show you quickly. We try to use our king. Black starts pushing the pawn. We have to go for the pawn because our pawns are not that close. They need 5 moves, and this guy only needs 4. So we have to go get the pawn. Black's knight's going to come in at the right moment, start taking our pawns, and ultimately we get this drawn endgame where black sacrifices the knight for the pawn, and nobody can win. Okay, great. So all of that happened, just to remind you, after we played rook to b8, black got the queen, and we captured it. Okay, so you guys tracking with me? So the winning move is rook to e1 check. And now black has to waste a move moving the king, which is kind of important, but not maybe in the way that you think it is. So first of all, what happens if they play king to h2? On king to h2, well, now we just push our pawn. And they go here, we take, we push it. They try to do the same thing, but look at the difference. We got an extra move because we did the check. And now if they try to play, f6 like before, we simply move up. Remember last time there was this fork where we would lose our pawn? Now we don't lose our pawn. It's already moved. We just go here, we win. Black can't stop us. So that extra move makes a difference. However, black doesn't go king h2, they go king to g2. And you're probably thinking, who cares? What's the difference between king h2 and king g2? Wait for it. You're going to see exactly why. So if we try the move h4, black is going to play this, king to f2. And now I want you to look carefully, where can we move our rook to? We have to keep it on the first rank because we got to stop the queen. But look carefully. We can't go here. We can't go here. We can't stay in one of these 3 squares because the king, which means we have to go here or here. Now, if we go over to h1, look at this move. Knight to f1 blocks our rook off, and black's getting the queen. We lose. Okay? So because of that, we have to go to d1. Well, now black plays king to e2, attacks us again, and we have the same problem. We can't go here, we can't stay here. We have to go to one of these 2 squares. If we go to h1, we've seen this before. Knight to f1 wins. So we go to g1. The point is that now if black tries to block us off, we have this clever move, rook to g2 check, and we pick up the pawn. Okay? So because of that, black says, all right, fine, I'll just go back to f2. And we have to just repeat. Okay, and it's ultimately just a draw by repetition, back and forth, back and forth. So this idea, going all the way back here, this idea of bringing the king over is why we cannot play h4. Okay, so the only winning move, I just gave it away there, is rook to d1. We attack the knight, and we force black to go ahead and get the queen and go into this other line. Okay, that's what we're doing. We're forcing them to say, hey, now's the time. Because if you move the knight somewhere, well, now we just come over to b1, we stop the pawn, they can't do anything. They have to get the queen now. Okay, we take it. They take it. And you're probably thinking, Nelson, we already looked at this exact line, right? The rook was here, the rook was here, they captured. We already looked at this, right? We push the pawn, they bring the knight up. We push the pawn, they bring the knight up. We go here, they go check. We go, we go here, and they fork us. And so we have to go back to g4. We've already seen this. They go check. We move. Oh, do you guys remember? Do you guys remember the move I told you to remember? Knight to g2 check. Look at black's king. It's in the way. See, black kind of got an extra move, which we made them take when we played the rook check. You remember that? Forcing it to go to g2. And now we can finally see the idea. It takes away the square from the knight, which means black has to resort to another try. Now, it's not over yet. Black has quite a few more tricks up their sleeve. Knight to d5 check, since the g2 square is unavailable, which led to the draw. King to e4, knight to c3 check. They continue to put us in check. King to d4. We're trying to just run over and get away from the checks, because if we go back, black's just going to repeat the moves. Knight to e2 check. And now a big question for you guys, where do we move our king? We have quite a few options. Only one move is winning for white. What should we play? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, this is not easy, but essentially what it comes down to is, remember the goal here. We're trying to push the pawn, black's trying to stop it. So we don't want to move our king anywhere that allows black to stop that. So for example, if we make a move like king to e3, black's going to play knight to g3 here. And then if we push, look at this, we step into the fork, okay? So that's not going to be good enough. King to c4, well, actually, let me back up. King to d5, same thing. We step into a fork. We don't want to go there. King to c4 looks like a really logical move. Whenever you're trying to avoid a check from a knight, if you step a diagonal with a space in between away from it, you've guaranteed that the knight's not going to be able to check you for at least 3 moves. And that seems like a very logical try. Unfortunately, it's the wrong move, because knight to g3 attacks our pawn. We have to push it. Black takes this one, attacks the pawn. We have to push it. And then look at this. Here's the check. And then once we move, the knight has time to loop around and stop us. Okay? So it doesn't quite work for us. So because of that, that's the wrong move. We already saw that's the wrong move. That's the wrong move. The only move is king to c5. Because now, if the knight tries to do some sort of the same thing, attacks our pawn, we just push it. We push it, and there's no check on our king. There's no way for the knight to stop the pawn in time, okay? However, it's not over yet. Black plays the move d6 check, and we have another tough decision. What should we do? All right, well, if you said capture the pawn, you would be wrong because of the same idea. Knight to g3 attacks our pawn. When we move it, oh, we've stepped into the fork yet again. Okay, so we can't do that. What do we need to play? Well, you might think, let's just run, away so the knight can't check us. Just get out of dodge. Problem is, knight to f4 attacks our pawn. We got to move it. Then there's check. We got to move. Knight to e5, and then look at this. The knight again makes it in time because they got a free move with check on our king. So what should we play? The only correct move is now going back to c4. And if you remember last time, the reason we didn't want to go here was because knight to g3, we pushed the pawn, knight takes. There was a check on d6, and the knight came in to stop our pawn. Now the black pawn is in the way, and hence that doesn't work for black. So king to c4 is the winning move. And now black is almost running out of tries, but they have one final trick left. So I want you to imagine you're playing this game. You've somehow seen all of these tricks, and now black plays knight to g1. You have one more sort of test to finish off the game. What move do you play? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you didn't say h6, because it really looks like the knight is so far. Surely this must be the right move, right? Nope. Look what's going to happen. They take your pawn. They go here with check. And then again, the knight gets to f7 and stops the pawn. All right, so that was black's final trick. What you needed to play was the move f4. And the reason we're playing f4 is not to save the pawn. we don't care about the pawn, really, because we got this guy, which is going to get the queen. The reason we play f4 is to control these squares so that the knight can't go there with check on our king and land on f7. That's why we play f4. That's the only winning move, and black could try a couple things. Let's say knight h3. You simply push your pawn now, and if they take it, you push it again, and notice they're actually in time, but this pawn is stopping the knight. They can't stop us from getting a queen, and they lose. And so that's ultimately how you win. Okay, so just to recap this craziness, you had to sacrifice the bishop on d2. You had to go rook to e1 to lure the king to the g2 square so that the knight didn't have it available like 10 moves ahead into the future, however many moves it was. And then you had to go through all these shenanigans with your king, dancing around the knight, landing on just the right squares, avoiding all of the traps so that ultimately you can get the queen with the pawn. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. I know it was a little bit more advanced and difficult than some of the ones that we've looked at, but I think you can appreciate that. Let me know if it made sense, and I'll see you guys next time. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.